Blessed One, Shakyamuni.
Fingers crossed. It's Liz, isn't it? Is it Liz?
Yes, Liz.
Yeah, you've been booking a bit recently. It's nice. It's nice.
Yeah, I resigned from one of my jobs, so I've just, I still do a little bit in other places, so I'm just
This is great. When you choose to come here when you've got spare time. Fantastic.
yeah, no, it's good for me, good for others. So yeah, I'm getting a lot from it actually.
This is beautiful. Prayer and song, tune, and then teaching as well. I'm getting to loads from it.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. Just get so much from it and reminds me of what I lost of myself, so it's great. Tap that into myself. So good, thank you. Everybody's up.
Yeah, it's a lot of effort goes in, and it's great when people come. So we'll just, I'll leave you to it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Shall we do me a favour? When you get to number 6 down, make sure his mic's in the right place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Sherry Shotty. Thank you.
Thank you. You can do that.
Thank you. Great. Woo. No. It's loud. So good evening, welcome to Prayers for World Peace. So we begin with a liberating prayer, then we'll do a meditation and see if this works. Something wrong?
That's okay. Sorry.
This is This just to help us practice patience.
O Blessed One, Shakyamuni Buddha, precious treasury of compassion, bestower of supreme inner peace, you who love all beings without exception, are the source of happiness and goodness, and you guide us to the liberating path. Your body is a wish-fulfilling jewel. Your speech is supreme purifying nectar, and your mind is refuge for all living beings. With folded hands I turn to you, supreme unchanging friend. I request from the depths of my heart, please give me the light of your wisdom to dispel the darkness of my mind, and to heal my mental continuum. Please nourish me with your goodness, that I in turn may nourish all beings with an unceasing banquet of delight. Through your compassionate intention, your blessings and virtuous deeds, and my and may holy Dhamma flourish forevermore.
And so we can meditate. So for a few moments, just watch the rhythm of your breathing. And as you do this, bring to mind all the suffering of all living beings, from yourself, your close friends, your parents, your siblings, your children, and everyone else you know, even people you don't know. And think about how countless beings are experiencing unbearable suffering throughout the world. So often much more than we have to endure. Thinking about our own suffering and problems gives us some insight into the sufferings of others. And we come to realize that nobody chooses to experience suffering or problems. They just arise. Without choice. They arise because we've already created the causes of suffering by our own past actions. In countless of our past actions, we created hurtful, negative actions towards others. Even in this life. And because of that, we've created negative potentials that we carry within our own mind. When the time is right and conditions are right, these potentials ripen as suffering, problems. And it's the same for everyone else. Each person only experiences the results of their own actions. And their suffering is simply the results of their past negative actions. And all of this negativity arises from self-cherishing. If we were able to be free of self-cherishing ourselves and come to cherish only others, we would be able to be free of suffering ourselves. And so we understand that everyone else has to do the same if they want to be free. And so the thought arises in our mind, I will help others to stop cherishing themselves. And I'll do this by stopping my own self-cherishing. I'll be an example for others. I'll stop my own self-cherishing and come to cherish only others. And when others see this example, perhaps they will want to do the same. And so we make a determination and meditate on it single-pointedly. I will stop my own self-cherishing and come to cherish only others, because I cannot bear to think of the suffering of all other living beings. And so I will take responsibility and free myself first. In doing so, help others do the same. And so we can think, I'll work on myself to free myself from self-cherishing. Hold that one thought in your mind. I'll work on myself to free myself from self-cherishing. Thank you. So now you can relax your concentration. So we should know that learning to cherish others is the best method for establishing world peace in general, and for our own peace of mind in particular. Learning to cherish others is the best method to establish world peace and create our own peace of mind. If everyone sincerely prays to be able to cherish other living beings, then gradually, through the power of this prayer, everyone will actually cherish each other. The world will then be permanently at peace, and pure and everlasting happiness will pervade the entire world. Imagine that, just by stopping cherishing ourselves and coming to cherish everyone else. Then gradually our own example will spread outwards, and eventually, it may take a long time, but eventually everyone will come to cherish each other. Then the world will then be permanently at peace. So opposing our own self-cherishing is creating the cause for world peace. And pure and everlasting happiness will pervade the entire world. Understanding this, we recite the following prayers while concentrating on their meaning.
To attain the supreme peace of mind, enlightenment, I make excellent offerings to the holy beings, the enlightened beings of the 10 directions, and the assembly of bodhisattvas. However many flowers and fruits there are in all the different types of medicine, all the jewels there are in the world, in all the pure refreshing waters, mountains of jewels, forest groves, and quiet and joyful places, heavenly trees adorned with flowers, and trees whose branches hang with delicious fruits, scents that come from the celestial realms, incense, wish-granting trees and jewel trees, harvests that need no cultivation, and all ornaments that are suitable to be offered, lakes and pools adorned with lotuses, and the beautiful call of wild geese, everything that is unknown throughout our worlds as extensive as space. Holding these in my mind, I offer them well to the supreme beings, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. O compassionate ones, holy objects of offering, think of me kindly and accept what I offer. surpasses even the wish-granting jewel. May I constantly cherish all living beings. Whenever I associate with others, may I view myself as the lowest of all, and with a pure intention, may I cherish others as supreme. Examining my mental continuum throughout all my actions, as soon as a delusion of self-cherishing develops, whereby I or others would act inappropriately, may I firmly face it unaverted. Whenever I see unfortunate beings oppressed by evil and violent suffering, may I cherish them as if I had found a rare and precious treasure. Even if someone I have helped and of whom I had great hopes nevertheless harms me intentionally, may I see him or her as my holy spiritual guide. When others out of jealousy or anger harm me or insult me, may I take defeat upon myself and offer them the victory. In short, may I directly and indirectly offer help and happiness to all my mothers, and secretly take upon myself all their harm and suffering. Furthermore, through all the above practices, together with a mind undefiled by stains of conceptions of the eight extremes, and that sees all phenomena as illusory, may I, in all living beings, be released from the bondage of mistaken appearance and conception.
So the second half of that prayer is based on a poem from the early 11th century. It's called 8 Verses of Training the Mind. So it begins with deciding to cherish everyone without exception. Constantly. May I constantly cherish all living beings in order to pursue this extraordinary goal of seeking enlightenment for the benefit of others, realizing this is the only way we're really going to be able to benefit others. Not only do we need to show a good example, but also we need to empower ourselves so that we can create conditions for others to free themselves from suffering by abandoning their own self-cherishing. And then the second verse is saying, may I view myself as the lowest of all and come to regard everyone else as supremely important. supremely important. Every single being. Normally, we only have one or two people who are supremely important. Yeah. Maybe two. But mainly one. Ourself, supremely important. We kind of have to get over that and come to think that our importance only lies in being able to free others from their suffering. And in order to accomplish that, suddenly we have to turn this self-cherishing around. Instead of cherishing ourselves, cherish them. They are, after all, our kind mothers. We talked about this before, I think. How we've had countless lives in the past. In all our lives in the past, we were born. Every time we were born, we had a mother. And they have been reborn too, from life to life to life. And so they're born into this life. And so they're all our kind mothers. It was essentially all living beings. There is no single person who has not been our mother at one time or another. And they don't stop being our mother just because they've been reborn, just because we don't recognize them. They're still our mother. And so we think, I have to help them overcome their own self-cherishing, the source of all their problems and suffering. And then watching our own mind, as soon as self-cherishing develops, and until we're enlightened, there will be always some self-cherishing remaining in our mind, and so we will have a tendency to act upon this self-cherishing. But the thing is, if we notice it, if we pay attention to our mind, we will notice when self-cherishing is arising, because it destroys our feelings of peace. We can be floating along very peaceful, and then suddenly self-cherishing arises and our peace is destroyed. Imagine you're on vacation, you're having the most wonderful experience. You're on this beautiful beach in the Bahamas, and clear blue skies, and the only sounds are the plop of coconuts falling into the sand, and the gentle waves breaking on the ocean, and the distant call of beautiful exotic birds, and you have pleasant conversations with your companion, and you have these beautiful little sandwiches and this beautiful little blue drink. And life is perfect. And then suddenly you get irritated because your friend said something you didn't like. And suddenly the whole thing changes. Because self-cherishing is arising because something you don't like. They may be quite innocent, thinking, oh, this would be a nice thing to say, but then suddenly you don't like it. And what you like is absolutely important, and so your whole world begins to change. Those birds in the distance are so annoying, and those waves are getting really big, and there's sand getting in the sandwiches, and the blue drinks are finished, and the conversation is really boring. All because your friend said something that you didn't like. You didn't like. You cherish yourself, and so you decided you didn't like this thing. And so you start having an argument. And your whole peace and this amazing experience is destroyed. You're destroying it for yourself and your companion as well. So, may I firmly face it and avert it. So it doesn't really matter what your friend says. It's your job to remain at peace. May you firmly face it. This is just self-cherishing arising. Stop it. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous just to destroy this beautiful vacation just because of some vibrations in the air. Because that's all speech is, vibrations in the air. Whenever I see unfortunate beings oppressed by evil and violent suffering, may I cherish them as if I had found a rare and precious treasure. So everyone, even the birds in the distance, the hotel staff, the bar person who's serving you the drinks, the nice blue drinks, your companion, they are all oppressed by evil and violent suffering. The word evil simply means that which is the cause of suffering. And everyone has self-cherishing, the cause of suffering. They're not free of suffering yet, so they still have the causes of suffering in their own mind. So we come to realize we can cherish everybody who's experiencing suffering day by day, like we were before we stopped our self-cherishing. And so, may I cherish them, because in dependence upon them, I develop this beautiful mind of compassion. When I have compassion for them, that's like a fuel. I'm creating a fuel that will take me to enlightenment and enable me to fulfill my two purposes: to free myself from suffering and to have the power to free everyone else from their suffering too. So this is the most meaningful, precious thing I can do, is to seek enlightenment. And by regarding others as precious and supremely important, then we develop this beautiful mind of compassion. Without seeing others as precious, it's very difficult to develop a mind of compassion. And then this verse: even if someone I have helped, and of whom I had great hopes, nevertheless harms me intentionally, may I see him or her as my holy spiritual guide. So, do you have anybody like this? Anybody you've helped? You had great hopes for them? What did you hope for them? That they would, worship you for the rest of your life? Or they would become a great being too. They would stop their self-cherishing and free themselves from suffering as well. But nevertheless, even though we had these great hopes for them, just because we helped them, and we were expecting payback for having helped them, and instead of the great rewards that we'd hoped for, we get hurt. We get hurt and harmed intentionally. Sometimes they can accidentally cause us harm, but this is intentional. And it feels awful. Not just because of the act itself, but because of who's engaging in this act. This special person that we cherished. And now they're doing something out of a mind of anger. It's the anger that is so disappointing. So what do? Do we just retaliate? Cause more problems for ourselves and for them? Or do we practice patience? when it says, may I see him or her as my holy spiritual guide, it's like saying this is someone who's giving you a wake-up call. A wake-up to realize that you still have within yourself the causes of suffering. You're still not free of suffering yourself. This disappointment is a suffering itself. So you're still not free of self-cherishing. And it's time you got your act together and got out of suffering, overcome your self-cherishing completely and come to cherish the other person, even if they're harming you intentionally. Because you can come to realize that when they're harming you intentionally, they're suffering too. They're acting out of delusion. And when they have delusions in their mind, they are experiencing suffering, because delusions have no function other than to cause suffering. When someone has a delusion functioning in their mind, they are naturally suffering. And so instead of thinking, oh, poor me, I'm so disappointed that this person should be attacking me, think of their suffering. Think of how we experience this suffering because we're still in samsara, and strengthen our efforts to get out. Strengthen our efforts to develop moral discipline, concentration, and wisdom. Use our concentration to develop a mind of compassion for every living being, including the person who is disappointing us. And use wisdom to realize how things really exist, including yourself. How the self you normally see doesn't exist. And so you as the recipient of this anger doesn't exist. The person who is creating the anger towards you doesn't really exist. They're just appearances to mind. And so the interaction between you and the other person, that doesn't exist either, other than in your own mind. And so you come to realize that there's nothing much happening really. It's just like a dream, just like a bad dream. And in itself has no meaning other than the meaning that you impose upon it. And so you can relax. Even if someone you have helped and of whom you had great hopes nevertheless harms you intentionally, I can just relax. Because they're helping me by being my holy spiritual guide. So we can meditate on that determination. Even when someone that we cherished, that we cared for, and we helped them and we had high hopes for them. High hopes that they would always be our special person in our life. And nevertheless they harm you intentionally. We can do a number of things. We can develop compassion for them. We can strengthen our mind of renunciation, wishing to free ourselves from samsaric suffering. We can develop a mind of wisdom, realizing emptiness of ourself and other phenomena, including the other person and the interaction between us. That it is all just like a dream. We don't need to respond to this perceived hurt or harm. We can just relax. And instead of retaliating, we can cherish our friend who we realize is suffering from their delusion of anger. We can have compassion for them. So we have these very special mental tools that enable us to change every situation into something that helps us to make progress towards enlightenment. We can strengthen our renunciation. We can develop compassion. We can develop patience of non-retaliation. We can develop the wisdom that realizes the emptiness of ourself and everyone else. And especially the emptiness of our feelings, our own mind, our feelings. And so we can just relax and abide in a state of peace. And because we have this mind of compassion towards the other person, we're helping them. We're showing the example of patiently accepting suffering. So even if someone you cherished harms you intentionally, see this as an opportunity, because they're helping you develop virtuous minds. Thank you. So when we're out of meditation, we can remember this, that we shouldn't be disappointed. Our expectations are part of our self-cherishing as well. If we have expectations, why? Because we want things to happen. We want this person that we've helped to repay our kindness. But it doesn't always happen. And sometimes exactly the opposite happens. And so it forces us to look, why don't I want that? And the answer is always because I was self-cherishing, I'm cherishing myself. And so it's a wake-up call. So we can finish with the dedication prayers.
So that the tradition of Tsongkhapa, the king of the Dharma, may flourish. May all obstacles be pacified, and may all favorable conditions abound through the two collections of myself and others, gathered throughout the three times. May the doctrine of Conqueror Losamdrapa flourish forevermore. Tsongkhapa, crown ornament of the scholars of the land of the snows. You are Buddha, Shakyamuni, and Vajradhara, the source of all attainments. Avalokiteshvara, the treasury of unobservable compassion. Manjushri, the supreme stainless wisdom, and Vajrapani, the destroyer of the hosts of Maras. O venerable Guru Buddha, synthesis of all three jewels, with my body, speech, and mind, respectfully I make request. Please grant your blessings to ripen and liberate myself and others, and bestow the common and supreme attainments. Tsongkhapa, crown ornament of the scholars of the land of the snows. You are Buddha, Shakyamuni, and Vajradhara, the source of all attainments. Avalokiteshvara, the treasury of unobservable compassion. Manjushri, the supreme stainless wisdom, and Vajrapani, the destroyer of the hosts of Maras. O venerable Guru Buddha, synthesis of all three jewels. With my body, speech, and mind, respectfully I make requests. Please grant your blessings to ripen and liberate myself and others, and bestow the common and supreme attainments. Tsongkhapa, crown ornament of the scholars of the land of the snows. You are Buddha, Shakyamuni, and Vajradhara, the source of all attainments. Avalokiteshvara, the treasury of unobservable compassion. Manjushri, the supreme stainless wisdom. And Vajrapani, the destroyer of the hosts of Maras. O venerable Guru Buddha, synthesis of all three jewels, with my body, speech, and mind, respectfully I make requests. Please grant your blessings to ripen and liberate myself and others, and bestow the common and supreme attainment.
Thank you, everyone.